we're going to talk about the moments where you feel when you audition or when you act, in that you feel that you're tense because you're afraid to make mistakes. So you don't have much auditions or many auditions maybe. And so when you have one, you really want to get it right. And maybe even in general, you might think that there's a thing that the scene demands, a type of emotion that the scene demands, a type of reaction that the scene demands. And therefore you're focused on that and you're afraid that you're not going to be able to deliver what the scene wants or what you think is right about the scene. And of course you want to book, right? You want to show them that you can do it, whatever the scene demands. You want to show them that you're pro. You want to show them that you can do it so that you can book the job and get the work, right? And so the problem with that is that when you're avoiding making mistakes, you're avoiding making mistakes. So you're not being the character who is defending and going after what they want. You're being you in your ego, afraid to make mistakes. And therefore, it feels that, I read some actors saying that they hate that feeling, that they're really feeling some fear in their body, that they're feeling tense, that their jaw is getting tight, that they're trembling, that they're sweating, like some version of you running in the opposite direction of what feels good to you and of what you know will actually get you the job. But somehow your system goes there and you don't know how to get out of that. So it can feel really, really sticky and really uncomfortable. And of course, when you're in that place, there's no way that you can be fully alive and free and magnetic and book the job, right? So it doesn't feel good. It feels non-free. It feels stressful. It feels yucky, basically. And so what I would like to address today is what is actually happening, because you being afraid of making mistakes is a consequence of the real problem. The real problem is not that you're afraid to make mistakes. The real problem is that you have been conditioned, you have been wired, you have been programmed, you have been brainwashed from the earliest stages when you were a child to be that person who is trying to do the right thing, who is trying to please, who is trying to be good, who is avoiding mistakes. So let's look at our traditional conditioning, education, and wiring. Let's look at the school system. The school system is promoting you to be the same as others, is promoting you being a good listener, you doing it right. It's testing you. It's feeding you some information that you haven't requested. And then it's testing you and making sure that you can remember what you were fed that you didn't ask for and that you're not interested in, and that you can regurgitate it in the same way. And if you don't, if you make mistakes, if you deliver it differently, then you're being punished, you're being shamed, you're being devalued, you get report cards and you don't get your valuation. And then you go home and your parents are upset because you're not good or you're not perfect, right? So are you starting to see that the system that you were raised in has fed you that programming that you need to do things right, that there is a good and a bad way, that there is a right and a wrong, and that therefore your system, your entire system, your way of thinking, behaving, and feeling is, without you being able to shift that, going in that direction because you were trained to be that person, the person who does it like it's been told to do it, like there is one way to do it, one truth, one right way, and you have to do it right. If you don't do it right, you'll be punished, shamed, devalued, ridiculized, humiliated by your friends, all of that sort of thing. The love might be taken away a little bit by your parents if you get punished, or at least your perception of their love. So your entire system is trained to not make mistakes. That is the problem. You being afraid of making mistakes in a scene is not the problem. The problem is your system has been built to avoid making mistakes. And as you know, the truth is that in art, there are no mistakes. There's only your truth. There's only your version of being this character and your specific humanity coming into this character and fighting for what they want. There's not a right way to do a scene. There's not a right way to do a character. There's not a right way to do anger. There's not a right way to do a certain emotion for a specific scene. None of that exists. The proof is the actors that you're actually moved by are usually the ones that are surprising you. The ones that get the script, and when they get on the stage or on screen, they're not taking a linear approach. They're not trying to do it right. They're doing it their own way. They're putting themselves in the character and they're defending the character's needs their own way. So they're not focused about doing it right. They are being the character and discovering how they do it as they do it. And that's art. Whether you're talking about acting, painting, singing, whatever it is, there are no mistakes. You can throw that word away, right? So is this starting to make sense for you guys? That the problem is not that you're afraid of making mistakes and that like closes your instrument. The problem is you were trained to have your instrument closed and to be aware of right and wrong and always try to go for right and avoid wrong, because the consequences of doing things wrong or making mistakes is so painful. You've been told that since you were little that you will avoid that. And therefore, you're not being the character. You're just playing a game that has nothing to do with the game that you're paid for or that you're auditioning for. The game that you're paid or auditioning for is for you to be there fully alive in the moment and to give your life, your presence, your whole free instrument to that person in that moment. And that's what's magnetic. That's what's free. That's what feels amazing to you and to the audience or the casting director. That's when they want you, whether you're right for the role or not. That's when they will rewrite for you. That's when they'll make sure that your character doesn't die. That's when they'll make the role bigger. They'll change the accent. They'll do all of these things to keep you, because the amount of life that you bring is what's juicy and what an audience gets to be a fan of. An audience doesn't become a fan of you because you didn't make any mistakes. Mistakes, again, do not exist in art. So trying to avoid them is really a downward spiral that doesn't get you or the people who are wanting to tell the story or the audience any benefit from. So, of course, to access that truth in you and that freedom in you, what you need to do is to undo the resistance, undo all of that wiring, undo all of that programming that you were caged into, and that prevents you from being there in the moment, that prevents you from really being free and going for any impulse. Your wiring, your programming is what keeps you jailed and caged into, I want to do it right and I want to make sure I don't make mistakes because I don't want to be humiliated. So the work to do is not to not try and make mistakes. The work to do is to make sure you undo all the programming that's been planted in your system and that prevents you from just being here, not even worrying about getting it right or mistakes, because those things don't exist. The only thing that exists is you in the moment and this character that you're impersonating and that you're defending, right? So, of course, in order to do that, it takes work. It takes some undoing, right? But it doesn't need to take that much work. In the work that we do, it actually takes a month, and we work on it every day, and we undo the resistance. All right, guys, if you have any questions, post them in the comments. All right, bye, guys.